Welcome everyone, and thank you for taking the time today to attend. My name is Jimmy, and on behalf of OutsourcingCenter.com, we are proud to present today's eSeminar. Explosive growth is no accident, and Insurer's digital business transformation success story. This will be presented today by NTT Data and National Life Group. We do want to encourage you to submit questions throughout the presentation, and you may do so by typing your questions into the field labeled Questions on your console. Now let me kick things off by introducing today's guest speakers. First up is Mike Sarantopoulos. He is the Senior Vice President of Insurance for NTT Data. As a practice leader for the North American insurance business, Mike oversees NTT Data's portfolio of insurance clients and offerings, including their enablement of digital business transformation within the insurance industry. Mike's perspectives on digital business transformation was published this month in the June print edition of Claims Magazine and online at propertycasualty360.com. Welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining us today. Up next is JB, who is the Vice President of IT Architecture and Data Management at National Life Group. He's been there for the last 6.5 years, building its entire data management practice from scratch. Under his management, National Life Group has recently been honored by the Insurance Networking News and Celent as a winner of the Vanguard in Insurance Best Practice Award. They also have been awarded and recognized for their excellence in analytics. In his prior life, JB led the global architectural projects at GE Money across several initiatives in Latin America, Eastern and Central Europe, along with Australia. He's very passionate to see how data-associated processes transform business landscape and profitability. Welcome, JB, and thanks for being with us today. Finally, I'd like to introduce David Liliedahl. He is the Vice President of NTT Data's Life and Annuity portfolio of clients. David has had over 25 years of IT consulting experience with large clients such as Sony, Samsung, and the United States National Guard Bureau. He's also had over 10 years of experience as a data service solutions provider, having managed the team that developed the manufacturing and engineering data warehouse for IBM's microelectronics division prior to coming to NTT Data. Mr. Liliedahl is a U.S. Air Force veteran and currently serves as a major in the United States Air National Guard. Welcome, David, and thanks for joining us today. Mike, I am going to pass the virtual podium over to you to get this presentation kicked off.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate it. And thank you all for joining. Good afternoon. We're excited to be speaking to you today about digital business with our trusted partner, National Life Group. We're going to be talking about digital business in the insurance industry, focusing on why at a macro level and at an individual carrier level, transforming to a digital business model is so critical. And then even more specifically, what role data plays in any digital business strategy. We'll hear from our partner NLG about their specific journey to digital business. What were their critical success factors, lessons learned and that sort of thing. And then we'll end the session with some tips and strategies, for how you, as individual carriers, can begin your own digital business program. So before we move on and before we begin, I do think it's important to set the proper context for today's discussion and share a point of view on digital business, because as you all know, it's a very broadly used term that's ubiquitous in the marketplace today. And so from a digital business standpoint, for purposes of today's discussion, for us, it's about gaining a competitive advantage through greater operational efficiency, speed, flexibility, and quality. Carrier is able to personalize products and services quicker and with deeper insight on their customers' biases will have an advantage in the marketplace. Also, carriers that create the most consistent, immersive user experience across all of their business channels will achieve greater loyalty and performance. These are just a couple advantages that result from improved digital business capabilities, tools, and strategies. So keep some of this in mind as we go through today's content. If you could move to the next slide, please, Jimmy. So just a little background. As Jimmy mentioned, NTT Data is the consulting services arm of NTT Group. We have over 75,000 staff in 40 countries, very heavily focused on vertical businesses, insurance being one of our largest vertical business areas. with over $1 billion in insurance revenue. And again, we help our customers balance the challenges inherent with transforming to digital business models. National Life Group is a 165-year-old leading provider of life and annuity, retirement, and wealth management services with over $30 billion in assets under management and a very strong balance sheet and exciting growth in recent years. National Life and NTT are longstanding business partners, which makes today's discussion, exciting. So next, we want to give you a perspective in terms of, growth hasn't changed, just the digital path has, and there's a couple of key pieces to remind everyone here. What we see is brand trust, things like ease of purchase across what we call the omni-channel, the different channels, mobile, web, traditional channels are key factors influencing customer decisions to choose or leave an insurer. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what side of the fence you're on, moving, your retention of customers and your ability to acquire new customers is highly dependent on the experience that your customers have. In addition, the accuracy and speed of information, of data, or business insight to the various channels that you interact with your customers and agents on are critical to quality in a rich user experience. Moving on to the next slide. An important component of any digital business strategy, should focus on improving an insurer's ability to seamlessly connect with customers and agents across the value chain continuum. An increasingly important capability within insurance companies is around the sort of the micro area of digital data communication and management strategies. So what that means is, what data needs to be delivered through what channel and when. So obviously getting the right information to the right constituencies at the right time is extraordinarily important. And then according to many studies, as you see here, the insurers with the most mature capabilities in these areas, these digital areas, they'll have a competitive advantage. And in a nutshell, what the analysts are saying is, move to digital or you will fall behind. That's the harsh reality of the situation. So moving on, the remainder of today's discussion will focus on how to get started and create a plan for digital business for your company. And again, as I mentioned, we'll hear from one journey around National Life Group's path. And most importantly, how do you get started? So what are some strategies that you can use? As we go through this, we advise that you understand that obviously when National Life Group is going through their information, it's one case study, but each insurer's journey is different. And we also advise that through our own experiences, we've learned that balancing the migration to digital platforms, digital tools, processes, etc., with existing legacy systems and processes and components in and of themselves is a critical success factor. And I do want to stress that, understanding your organization's ability to manage change as you move towards digital, understanding what you have from a legacy standpoint is critical. If you move too quickly, you increase risk. If you move too slowly, obviously from a competitive advantage, you fall behind. So it's critically important that when you embark on these journeys, you gain the advice of those that have some experience in this. Moving to the next slide. So what are some of the digital business goals of insurers today? I mean, hopefully many of these on the left-hand side are common to you folks as insurers. One of the key goals here is to develop, as I mentioned, a deep and trusted relationship with your agents and your customers. Conducting business needs to be easy, right, and high quality across the channel, across the different communication channels. So this is often referred to as omni-channel, having the right consistent presence across the various channels. And then on the right side, you see here, developing agile, efficient, mobile, web, and other channels are highly dependent on, again, as I said at the outset, being agile, having as a service, infrastructure as a service, and agile infrastructure. things like on-demand applications and application platforms that allow you to be more flexible are critically important. And finally, it's important to at least footnote that the area of security and enterprise risk management and compliance, and specifically security related to data loss prevention and things related to data, are essential. You see it in the newspapers all the time. You need to have a comprehensive enterprise strategy around that. It's one thing to create the infrastructure and the digital programs. You need to protect those with the right security programs. So I'll turn it over to David Liliedahl.
And Mike, I've got a question. This is that came in from the audience. I think it's pertinent on what we're talking about right now. Do you mind if I ask it real quick?
Certainly.
Okay, so the question is, my company's already headed down the path of customer service, self-service, and we're improving our agent systems. So we're backing into dealing with our disconnected data. Do you have any suggestions for how to get a data initiative going that will catch up with our channel initiatives?
So that's a great question, and I think it's very relevant to the case study that we're going to just about to embark on with National Life Group. I don't want to steal JB's thunder, so what I would advise is we can go through that and then circle back to this question, or if JB would like to comment on that prior to getting into the details, that's fine.
Sure, this is JB. Generally speaking, the process of providing services, enhancing, enriching is a continuous journey. As the business evolves, what is offered through which channel and what facilitation is constantly expanding. The way portals arrived a few years ago to the mobility continuum here is an example of what the customers are experiencing from us. As Gartner famously says, customers are already there and everybody else is trying to catch up to their expectations. So irrespective of what you have built, expanding, enabling the channels is a critical success factor to reaching out to your agents and customers. And it's a journey.
Yeah, and if I could just add, this is Mike, specific to the question about their goal of improving their agent systems and then backing into their disconnected data. To my earlier point of the importance of the proper data management, data communication strategy, you need to know your data. It's one thing to create the channel, to create that immersive portal, that immersive mobile application. You also need to make sure that you're getting the right business data to those channels, and so connecting that and having a strategy around that is critical.
Okay, great. Thanks, gentlemen. Let me move on here.
Thanks very much, Mike. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Oh, I was going to say, let's move on, and I believe, David, we're going to start connecting with you and kind of going through the process here.
You bet. Thanks very much. And some great discussion there. Thank you, JB and Mike. So what we're showing here is really what we view the role of data in business. I mean, I believe that if anybody is paying attention, they understand that data really is at the center of everything that gets done. And what we're showing here is a number of different use cases that some are obvious and some are not so obvious, but these are all use cases and capabilities that we've built out on the platform here at National Life Group. Now, again, some of these are pretty obvious, things like third-party data exchange or a marketing site, a portal, etc. Those are very obvious use cases that you would see from having a robust data capability. But there are some that are that are not so obvious. Things like a corporate treasury process improvement. What's that? Or operational process management. How does data help us with that? These are things that as you build out your capability and your functionality, you find that in addition to the obvious use cases, you will identify new use cases, new capabilities, new opportunities to leverage the robust data capability that you've built to extend into areas you couldn't previously imagine. And to Mike's point earlier, really, again, we believe data is absolutely at the core and the center of the digital universe. If you don't have a good handle on your data and you don't have a robust data capability to manage how you're going to leverage these various interactions that you want to have with your current generation of clients and your next one, you're really self-limiting. So let's move on. So what does good data tell you? Well, you know, these are some obvious answers here. All right. I mean, these are very, again, answer or questions that anybody could reasonably be expected to come up with. But there are some that are really that are not so obvious. So, for example, you're talking about product performance. How's my product performance and who's buying it? Well, obviously you want to understand that. But digging a little bit deeper, do you understand what your target demographic is? Who are you expecting to buy your products, and are you actually reaching that demographic? Are you able to stratify your insurers to understand what a profile of an insurer actually looks like and who's buying? Are you taking a look at, you know, your producer performance and stratifying them, again, along lines of, you know, perhaps captive or independent? Do you have benchmarks that you can utilize to determine how your captives are performing versus your independents, and in what sector of the market? Are you able to do things like take a look at, you know, geographic distribution of your insurers? Are you in places you'd like to be? Are you getting the type of distribution across population centers that you would like to see? And then, you know, again, there are some operational insights that you might be able to derive that, you know, you might not have thought of otherwise. Things like, you know, what is our percentage of NIGOs, and how does that impact our actual buy rate? You know, what's our new business processes look like, and where do we have bottlenecks? So there are a number of not so obvious use cases. And JB, I know that you guys have been looking at quite a number of these. So I'd ask, I mean, what else have you discovered that, you know, having a good, robust data capability and solid data been able to help you with?
A very interesting concept you raised about operational insights. I would expand it to say business insights. So the whole journey in data management starts with a robust capability to produce high quality reports. And then we end up in a place where I would like to, as we are automating our processes and as we are building more channels of business enablement, especially for field facing and for our producers to thrive on, we would like to know which producers are able to adapt and to the consumers. And so, for example, in the life area, electronic apps is a big deal. Now, electronic apps enable straight-through processing, and in National Life Experience, we have built a specific channel and a specific process for middle market. And then we would like to know which agents are pursuing which cases, what percentage of their business is coming through the apps, tells us the adoption rates, because e-apps means less human touch. And so to that operational insight is a level of analysis and modeling that will directly make the meaningful dialogue with the producers, which doesn't exist in a static two-dimensional report. And as we capture the data for reporting, it is the same data but in a different point of view. So look at data, and digital assets are incredibly valuable from a point of view of analysis. What am I looking at? Product behavior, customer behavior, producer behavior? Or is there a spontaneity about time cycles? How is it related to macroeconomics? Another example is term conversions. I give life examples because life is a different industry than P&C. For example, we still have policies. We are proudly servicing customers who bought our products in 1947. It's a matter of pride for the company. And so, which also tells you the longevity of a product that started in 40s has still to be maintained for service. And then we have these huge term customers. Now, which term customer is converting to a whole life at what point? Is it on illness or is it on a life cycle journey of the customer life cycle management? So there is derived information leading us to insights on not only how we are operating, use of our automated systems, but the entire behavior. You know, the digitization, data management has changed the landscape for us completely.
So, JB, would you say that's a testament to the statement that I was making, that you discover new capabilities and new opportunities as you progress on your journey, and you find things that you never really realized before you had a good solid data capability?
I have another dimension to that. I have seen as the data has become available, insights are easier to glean. There is a journey we got to make in terms of data quality, non-legacy, legacy things. I'll cover them when we talk about national life, but our business leadership has suddenly found an opportunity to ask questions they could not even ask 3 years ago because they knew they won't get answers. And now, you know, the world is continuously evolving into. We talk about the social media and big data and all that. We are not there yet. Big data applications in life are still in experimentation. But the opportunity is continuously expanding. And now that tells the marketing leaders to focus their strategies towards the generation of millennials. We could not have done it without a proper data management foundation, and let it evolve as the business strategy changes, business model changes. The flexibility, agility, or nimbleness is highly critical to success.
So I'm glad you brought up big data, JB. It's a good segue into the next slide, where, you know, Gartner's talking about big data and the ROI on data initiatives. And I think that, you know, JB and I have had a little bit of discussion about this, and I concur with JB's perspective on this, which is, you know, fundamentally, if you take a look at your data and your data capabilities, what you're trying to achieve there, you know, trying to have a direct ROI measurement on your data initiatives is really a mistake, because what you're really doing with these data initiatives, whether it's big data or whether it's just, you know, the existing data you've got and having a foundational capability, is you're building a platform for the enterprise. And I believe, you know, if you really want to measure your ROI, you really got to measure your ROE from an enterprise perspective. Take a look at your entire enterprise. How's your enterprise performing? Not how's your data performing, but how does your enterprise perform as a result of your initiatives in this space? JB, did you have anything you want to add there?
Absolutely. You know, as we journey through life, I still remember I was working for Oracle when Larry Ellison famously said, "Internet changes everything." Remember, 20 years ago, the notion was, how can Internet modify my business model? Imagine today a business not having an Internet portal. Unimaginable, unthinkable. And the digital enablement, we are now hearing about mobility first. Mobility, the mobile applications used to be a subset of web applications. But suddenly you have newfound servicing capability to the customers. If the foundation of all this evolution is something like data management, the return on investment is truly a stupid question. You don't question table stakes. You got to look at this is a lifesaver, an enablement, a launch on which lots of future things remain. So the business intelligence world faces a classic question. How do I measure the ROI, and how do I convince my leadership? I hope your leaders are realizing not still there. Without a data management platform and digitization, the businesses will perish. It's like if we say that 5 to 10 years from now, current millennials will be your 35 to 45% of your clientele. Is that not a reality? Are their behaviors not different? Their expectations not different? It's all about we being smart about what are we staring at. So ROI, in my personal opinion, is irrelevant to some of the things you do for survival.
That's a really good point, JB. And so just to summarize, what I heard JB say and again, we've had some discussion on this, and we agree wholeheartedly on this one. Today, having a robust data capability really is table stakes. When you take a look at the environment, when you take a look at not only what Gartner's saying, but what the press at large is saying, what's happening in other industries, it really is table stakes. And so again, take a look at the enterprise. Look at your enterprise ROE, not your data ROI, and measure, how is your enterprise performing as a whole once you've built out your data capability. And again, if you don't have it, you're facing a continuously curtailing future, I think, is what a number of industry trades and research institutions would tell you. And I think at this point, Jimmy, we've got a poll, don't we?
We do. We've got a poll. I'm going to put this out to the audience real quick. If you guys can just, whether you're on a project right now, it's on the whiteboard currently, just want to get an idea of kind of where your company's at or what your projects are, where you're at. How successful have your company's data integration initiatives been up to this point? Or, as you can see, there's an option there to pick, have not even attempted at this point. If you could just submit your questions, I'm going to give it maybe 10 or 15 more seconds as the votes are starting to roll in right now. I can tell you predominantly, we'll just give it a few more seconds. If you guys could just put in your vote, and I will close the poll here shortly. Appreciate you guys participating in that. Probably not surprising. We are looking at, I'll share the results real quick with everybody. So there you go. You can kind of see where people are at.
Yeah, and as you said, Jimmy, not terribly surprising. Mike, I think, we would both agree, as we've traveled across the industry and spoken with our clients in multiple different spaces, we see varying levels of success. And for, an enterprise to have, have been moderately successful and not have a quite single view of their customer is really not that uncommon. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree, and I think that it's a combination of what JB touched on earlier. Obviously the evolution of structured and unstructured data out there that could be potentially useful to your enterprise is constantly growing and proliferating, and that's another capability that you ultimately need to mature and develop over time. So at a point in time, you may answer this survey and say, at this point in time, given the scope of my data goals, I'm moderately successful or very successful even. But as you sort of start to stretch a little bit further and start to bring in, things like, social data and other data sources that you hadn't consumed in previous data initiatives, again, you may answer the poll differently, and that's part of why this is such an interesting and evolving in the area in the industry.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that, again, we talked a little bit about big data there, and you touched on that a little bit, and it's one of the things that I think, quite frankly, in the L&A space, it's an evolving space. We've seen a number of our clients are struggling a little bit with the relevancy, to them. I think we've seen that National Life Group has got a little bit of a handle on it, but that's also, in my view, because they're relatively sophisticated and pretty advanced in terms of where they're at from a data perspective. So they're asking questions that, quite frankly, I believe a lot of the folks that we've spoken with and met and come across in the field out there just aren't even prepared to start tackling yet. So, the question kind of becomes, all right, well, if we haven't gotten started yet or we've been moderately successful, what do we need to do? How do we get started? Well, for those who have been moderately successful, you've already got an idea. For those who haven't even started yet, there's some bullet points here where we kind of highlight the major focus areas. And I don't think there's anything here that's rocket science or, that you can't figure out on your own or haven't figured out on your own. But what we have seen is pretty consistently is this is really the areas that you have to focus on. And the things that we would say, I believe, is this this transformative journey is just that. It's a journey. It's not a project. It's not a program. It is an enterprise transformational journey. And these are the areas that you really do need to focus on. And some of these are within the scope of IT, and some of these things are really across the enterprise and is an enterprise type of scope, where as an IT organization and as IT leaders, you really need to go out and work with your business partners and ensure that they understand what you're doing. And we'll go on to the next slide, which is some best practices.
David, can I jump in real quick? I've got a question from the audience.
Yeah,
would that be okay? And it touches on what the first bullet point. Does all what they're asking is, does all the data have to be in one place to actually get a single version of the truth?
Well, I've got a perspective on that, but despite having been a leader in the business in the data space for a while, I'm not technical like JV is, so I'll defer to JV on this one.
Good question. The answer is no. There are different components in data. So there is a layer or a component called master data systems. What is master data? Is a single unified truth or information about a customer. Now, again, it starts with the IBM party model. A party could be an agent or a customer can have different roles like a beneficiary, policy holder, policy owner, or a corporation and its principal. Ability to get master data into unified customer for one view, one single authentic information about that business entity we are dealing with is critical. So one version of truth in those cases is good. The second case study is, I have points of consumption of information. For example, we have lots of CRM systems, and we have it in Salesforce, we have it in somewhere else, with third parties and partners. A lot of relationship management and the business information flows out to these points. And there are many agencies, some of our independent producers don't want to come to our system, so we pipe the data out to them for their own portal and local use, along with other carriers. Now, you cannot afford to not have the single version of truth as a source for all these points of consumption. So your information must be accurate, whichever channel it is delivered. The third case here is, data by its nature happens as part of your transactions, and they're all spread across your cloud, third parties, even within your agency offices, information is being processed, or we have an underwriting engine on cloud. Data gets generated in diverse locations. So what you need is a solid plan and architecture of which data flows where, how does it get consolidated, how does it get distributed. Look at it as a data as a backplane, a hub for your bus, for your entire operations. Later, just like your network, network is as seamless to the company and data is as seamless. It's all over the place. That's why you need solid data management plan and architecture. So it looks complicated, but really data is not about data warehousing anymore, as I was explaining in my portion.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate that. So I'm keeping an eye on the time here, Jimmy, and I'm going to try and go through this pretty quickly so that we will give JB enough time to speak about National Life Group's results, which are very substantial. So I'll just touch on this very quickly. There's a couple of key themes that I would articulate for folks who want to understand what this really means. And I think the key thing here is partnering with your business folks. Having that partnership with them, and I mean a true partnership where they really understand what it is that you're doing as an IT organization, what the journey is like, and I can't underemphasize or overemphasize, the term journey. It really is a journey. They need to understand, they need to buy in, they need to participate, they need to be active players in that journey. And it's not just your internal business partners, but it's also your external business partners. Look at your channel, look at your distribution. go out and communicate to them. Obviously do that with your internal business partners, but get your distribution channel excited about what it is you're trying to do, what it is you want to do. You'll find that they become very supportive, and in fact will become impatient for some of the things that you actually want to achieve. And having that external support as well as the internal support is a critical factor for success. And then having some early wins. Just be very clear about what your win strategy is going to be. Get some early wins quickly so you can demonstrate that not only are you making progress, but it's substantive progress and it's meaningful and actually has a difference to the business. And then finally, look for opportunities. You'll start, as JB has mentioned, you'll start realizing opportunities within the business that you just couldn't see before because you didn't have a capability. Now, one of the things that's on this slide is measure ROI. I would argue, again, that you really want to measure your enterprise ROE. Look at your enterprise once you've actually started building out around your platform. Look at how your enterprise is performing. Don't necessarily look at the sunk cost of building this capability, because as JB said, it's table stakes, and I agree with him. Look at your enterprise performance. So at this point, I'm very happy to turn it over to JB, who's been our partner here for the last 7 years, and I've had the pleasure of working with him for the last 6. So JB, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take a minute to explain my point of view about our partnership. First of all, I'm very glad, very thankful for inviting me to participate in this webinar. NTT Data has been a tremendous partner in the data management space for us. So when the change in CIO and the top level guard parachuted me into this world of life insurance in this company of 165 years history, it was an amazing thing. I moved in from consumer finance, there the super sizzling analytics and predictive modeling capabilities into life insurance, completely legacy world. It was an amazing change. And how do I start? Where do I start? The first requirement is people. NTT Data went on the limb to assemble the right talent. They brought the right people. It is not tools and technologies. It is the caliber of people that matters. And I'm very proud to say, and thank you, NTT, for that. Several people who started the journey with me in 2009 are still part of the team. Not because they don't want to go. It is because on a daily basis, they're learning. As the data platform evolved and applications increased and we're digitizing our entire business processes, the team is thriving on this experience. It has been a journey of their life. Thank you for being our partners. We will begin our story. So let me paint a context of what National Life was. When we talk about legacy systems, those of you in the audience who work in the L&A space, life and annuity, really would understand this. Legacy is a nature of insurance business because when you sell a product, you're going to service it through the lifetime of the customer. It could be 40 years, 50 years, like I said earlier, 80 years. You cannot change the product for compliance reasons. Some closed block may exist, but again, products may transform and morph, but legacy systems stay because you have an obligation to your consumers, customers, and the government to service what you sell. That's the nature of life insurance business. P&C is very high flying. It can turn on a dime, and life and annuity cannot. That is the primary cause of legacy systems. And then another significant point about life insurance is, again, the ROI question. Is data analytics relevant to life insurance sales? Most of these sales take place in kitchen tables. And then, so networking, handshaking. The kind of marketing involved in life is such that producer is the king. And the producer and his agency assemble the data they need, do the prospecting, develop the techniques all by themselves. Help from carriers in terms of additional intelligence and insight is generally was not expected till recent times. And as we looked at our objectives, we said, okay, we want to ease the pains of agents, not for insights, but even to get basic information. Create an agent portal with up-to-date information. I can't do it on the internet platform built 25 years ago. So we had to do the portal. But even if you have a portal technology, if the data is not digitized, what is it you're able to offer? So the journey of national life modernization began with data platform. I cannot tell you how significant that move was. We had a jump start for data for a couple of years, built our agent masters and things like that, and then we moved into portal and other forms of transformation. And then reduce the cost per policy, the operational analytics. Lost business is another one. You know, we used to routinely discard declines. Now declines are assets for cross-sell. Maybe he's declined for a life, but he's a candidate for annuity. And now it looks silly and simple when I say this, but that's the nature of most of life insurance companies. National Life was not the only company that I even know carriers were still in that space. Next slide. So as we look at this, what is technology transformation approach? I want the audience to know one thing. The traditional classical definition of data management is enterprise data warehouses and business intelligence. You don't see it here because that is old school. Data warehouses as a concept are still required for some kind of platform analysis, but the use of the data is in digitization of business processes, as Mike has explained in the beginning. And what is key to this is nimbleness. Things change. So master data models are for quality and governance. I would like to know an agent in full 360 view so that which part is he delinquent, which part is he successful. I have a customer. I would like to know how update the life cycle journey of the customer and say the product I sold 10 years ago and the face values we created, are they still relevant where he is in his lifetime? If we are not proactive, somebody else will be. Operational efficiency, operational data stores are not only for, there is a notion called a business data, like everything about policy, premium, commission and all that. The second part is operational data. When did this happen? How many times did this happen? So the operational logging and the event information is so critical to bring modern transformations and improved processes, automation. I can't speak enough about. And the final one, data and services today are seamless. You know, the word operational BI has been coined 15 years ago. But it is coming to fruition as operational data integration with master data and other things. So when an agent logs in, there is a standardized dashboard, there is a standardized reporting, but there is also a contextual service that comes and says specified alerts and notifications to that agent. So we collect and assemble this data for use, presentation, services in a seamless manner. So data management is no more about data warehousing. Business intelligence really is a side benefit. Next slide, please. So growth has happened not just because of data management. Data management enabled a level of information and its consumption in a seamless, automated manner. The growth is resulted largely because of the business strategy of the company and the types of products we have chosen. National Life is a leader in the IUL space, and new distribution capabilities and new producer partnerships have come around. But what is the good point is growth could not have happened without the support from the underlying back office systems, without data as a bus and services as a bus, without the automation. Growth would have been extremely hard based on legacy systems. It has now become so easy to grow that we have sustained double-digit growth year after year. Now, so it's an enabler, not simply hiring another 100 people to take up another 50,000 applications. And even if you hire people, they wouldn't be able to, because the legacy systems won't be able to do that. So it is the data, digitization, process automation, all contributed to growth. Growth is a sales phenomenon. But are you able to grow without any of this is the question you have to ask yourself, which takes it to channel efficiency. How do we build channel efficiency? Strategic reporting is we touched on it. Yes. Based on whether it's an agent or a producer or a customer or a business executive or an operations leader, an underwriting chief, the kind of information they need and they're asking for is much more dynamic and diversified now. Jimmy, please be my timekeeper as well. So we have some space for time questions. National Life is in an explosive growth phenomenon based on how the market will change, macroeconomic factors, and we are hearing that the interest rates will go up this year, which has a direct correlation to life and annuity businesses. Even in the down years, the recession we went through, National Life has done very well. And we build the channels, we build the processes ready to kind of retake off when the economy takes off again.
Yeah, JB, if I could, I think that, one of the things, that anybody who goes through B school here is when you're in a downturn, it's the time to make investments so that you're poised and in a position to take advantage when the market turns back up. But, it's easy to say in a textbook, not easy to do in practice, right? And I think it was a very courageous decision that National Life Group took to make that investment at a time when, the entire market was kind of pulling back. And, I think that initiative and that courage really did kind of position the company to be in a great position to take advantage when we came back out of that downturn.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. Strategy is formulated on not only where the market is, where the customers are going, but also on building intrinsic capabilities. The capabilities are not only about transaction processing, but also how can I get insights. And the transformation is also not a buzzword. A transformation is a continuous phenomenon guided by the changes in the marketplace. So ability to transform is through things like externalized data management and digitization and services models.
Hey, JB, this is Jimmy. We're doing great on time. We've got about 9 minutes left. Want to just be aware of that. But I do have a question that came in that maybe from one of your peers that I think is a good question to ask at this time. Obviously, like David mentioned, you guys are a little bit more forward in the process. But what is NLG focused on now? And let me take you back before this partnership happened. What are some of the things that you're able to do now that you weren't able to do before you got all this reliable data?
Good question. And that's a continuous evolution as well. Two things happened. The business leadership got savvy, and they're facing the clientele and the customers and the producers who moved ahead by 10 years. Now, digitization is a reality in the customer's smartphone. Now, whether the producer likes it or not, producer has to adjust. Similarly, carrier has to adjust to producers. So our business is starting to ask insightful questions. And then I'll give an example of a business, a big data question. We work with a lot of independents. We only know what we know about the independents. Now, independents have a lot of other carriers that are open. They don't share that information. Now, here is a market information I can integrate and say, how am I influencing that independent agents? A new insight that would not have been possible without a big data. We have customer profiles. Who is buying what? Now, okay, I can do a segmentation and find out who is buying what product. But how do I know that this is reflecting the market context there? External information will bring into us. Our chief of underwriter has asked me a question the other day. I have still a lot of manual overrides for automated engines, and I would like to know, is it coming from a particular clientele, particular producer, agency, a geography? Is there a pattern here that certain producers are not being as efficient as they were? Like I said earlier, adoption of electronic apps is another thing. As we modernize, we can get behind with that and say, here is what's the benefit of this channel to you. So we are now into developing deeper insights into behaviors of products, customers, producers, and our operational metrics and kind of take a bigger picture of big box, big view of what we can do, what we need to do. This is a national life that I cannot even imagine 5 years ago.
I've got another question, David. David, this may actually pertain to maybe you and JB. It came from the audience, and it kind of segues into what we're going into next to wrap this up. And that is, they asked, in your journey through this process, how many legacy systems did you sunset? I'm guessing, did you have to maybe take that for what that is? But how many did you stick with? How many did you have to get rid of?
So I think the answer is I don't know if we've actually been keeping track, JB, but it's about 100. It's about 100 legacy systems that we've been able to retire as a result of this journey. So as you can see, not only are there serious consequences and potential as a result of the capabilities, but there are some very real efficiencies that you can also achieve in retiring some of these legacy systems and recovering that cost. As we're revisiting the solution here, one of the things I really want to emphasize, and JB talked about it, and we feel similarly at Entity Data, is we're extremely grateful for the partnership that we've received from National Life Group and JB in particular as we've been on this journey. And I've used the word a couple times, and so has JB, and it really is. It's been a journey. Unfortunately, it's been a shared journey, and fortunately for us at Entity Data, National Life Group has been supportive of us taking what we've learned and building out what we now call our data management framework for insurance. So while, again, at a high level on the previous slide we were showing what some of the steps are, what I really want to talk about here is what it is that we're able to now walk away from this partnership with. We're not walking away from the partnership, we're still very much partners, but we've been able to take away some assets that we believe are exceptionally powerful. And again, this is a framework, and it's a framework that is very, very heavily focused on life and annuity. And while we are collaborating with our other partners to build out the P&C capabilities, I want to be clear that we're very much focused right now in its current iteration in life and annuity, and we've got assets. At the top line, you're going to see some of the use cases and capabilities that our platform enables, but really what we're trying to communicate here are some of the components of that capability. And it goes across all those three enablement layers: enterprise staging, the integrated data layer, reporting and analytical services, and it's encompassed by our master data management framework. We have, obviously, tight integration capability with legacy systems, and we've got quite a bit of experience with that. But it's a fully modern platform, and we can integrate, well, not only with legacy systems, but essentially with any system out there. Our team has not only the experience, but we also have the assets that enable us to do that. And we feel pretty good about our data management framework for insurance. Slide, Jimmy?
Yeah, David, I've got one more question that came in that that is pertinent for this slide and also for JB. With all the this is a question. With all the explosion of data, are you NLG taking a digitization approach or a digitalization approach to address it?
Yes, it is, and the key is selectivity. We now that we have built the foundations and we're moving towards higher levels of transformation, we need to make sure that anything we do offers a real business value. And because the data is now available in 100 different dimensions, a lot of hunger will come. And digitalization, in order to facilitate a tweak in a business process, your data architecture, your management IT management will have to work very closely with the business process to find value. And while we are continuing these micro journeys, also keep in mind a framework-based solution rather than one-off. A framework means you want to find a common form solution while answering n number of different questions so that you have the principle of single version of truth in place. You don't want to end up with 100 end-user development components.
Thanks, JB. So Jimmy, hopefully what we've been able to communicate effectively here today is just how central a robust data capability is. If you really want to kind of take your business to the next level and see the kind of growth, see the kind of results that National Life Group has achieved over the last several years consecutively, which, quite frankly, that they've been outperforming a number of their peers. We're very proud to be part of that and very proud of the partnership we have with them. And we're also proud of the role that what we now call our DMFI has played in that. And again, use cases that are really built off of this platform that is the DMFI. And we believe that, again, it's central. And if you want to experience the same type of results that National Life Group has, we're more than happy to speak with you about that. And I think at this point we're out of time, Jimmy.
We are, and I want to wrap things up. We are, David. Thank you for keeping track of that. I want to thank Mike and David and JB for joining us today, and to all of our attendees today, thank you for attending. Please be on the lookout tomorrow for an email of today's presentation and a link to the recording. With that said, I appreciate everyone's time today, and make the rest of the day a great one. Thank you.